Hello and welcome to another episode of Dude, Is This Thing On? I am Tyler Daswick, coming at you from Orlando, Florida, and joining me as always, he too has come a long way since Derek Comedy. It's Emilio Cariotti.
Is that a bit? I don't get that. I don't understand. I was never associated with
We're
that
changing.
I was a fan.
You showed me.
But I wouldn't say I've come a long way. I never started with them. Come on.
You don't think you've evolved since your days of watching Derek
Like
Comedy?
comedically? I never started. I have no I have no foundation.
I know. I meant just general.
I guess. Sure. Come on. You can do better.
Fine. But you didn't.
Your mother and I are disappointed. I don't know. I was a fan, and I've recommended Derek Comedy to plenty of people. But now that he's Childish Gambino, I feel like his comedic sort of leanings have kind of dissolved into artistic music and weird fucking music videos.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some people would say he has evolved.
I think if we were talking to Donald Glover, then that would have made sense. But I don't know. It was weak stuff, Tyler.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be the bit.
I think that's the end of this fucking partnership. We're done professionally. So you just fuck this. I'm out.
I should have introduced you as another pawn of American culture and consumerism. I think that would have made much more sense. And also would have led into our opener to talk about Donald Glover. Hey, segue
there
alert.
You go. Thanks for letting me know that we were segueing. Yeah. I would have been so fucking lost.
Wow. Yeah, man. Well, listen, dude. So we have a great show for the people today. It's packed. It's packed with content. And we're going to start with Donald Glover's new music video, Childish Gambino's new music video, I guess, for This Is America. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about Ta-Nehisi Coates' recent piece on Kanye West in The Atlantic called I'm Not Black, I'm Kanye. And then our featured segment today is going to be about one of our favorite games ever, just turned 10. That's Grand Theft Auto 4.
Happy birthday.
And we'll end with the speediest.
We're really going to go in and out on this one.
Right. No.
There's no cuddling afterwards. I'm not going to have my smoke. I'm just going to nut and get the fuck out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
It's good old Christian family.
But dude, let's yeah. All right, dude. Let's dive right in. I want to. I was excited actually that you brought up This Is America on the schedule. You do not shout out music videos to me. You do not recommend a lot of music videos to me.
I feel like it's not really my area of expertise. I was never really the music guy. I was more of a movie guy. And they kind of can go hand in hand, but I never really got that into music. I'm not like musically retarded. Like I have an iPod. It's attached to my phone. But I never really consider myself like an expert on the topic. So I'm always very like hesitant to talk music because most of the time I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But this music video, like as soon as it came out, it was everywhere on YouTube and Reddit, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, you see this fucking crazy thing that Donald Glover just did?" So I felt like it was topical. Yeah. So, you watched it. It was Nuck and Futz, dude. It was cool. I actually really liked it. Yeah. It was fucking awesome. I thought it was really funny. I don't know if I was necessarily supposed to think it was funny. It was funny in a really dark kind of way, which is just right up my alley. I feel like a lot of people watched it and got like really kind of disturbed, but I thought that was the funny part about it, is that it was just like really over the top violence. I know that makes me sound like a fucking psychopath, but that's just how I felt about it. And I think that was kind of the point that he was trying to make with it. So I liked it. 2 thumbs way up from this man.
Yeah, it's the word that I thought of as you were talking was it's really aggressive. It's like a really
yes. The way that it opens is but it's still funny. Like he shoots a guy in the head, but he does it with like a funny stance, and I definitely laughed.
Yeah, and that stance, I guess, is loaded with a lot of symbolism and meaning that people have read into. Like the big conflict of the video, and my primary impression when I was watching it was there's kind of like a conflict between the foreground and the background, right? So he's dancing with all these kids in the front and rapping and singing along to the verses and the chorus, and in the background is just blurred, way out of focus, total anarchy and chaos.
Yeah,
and
just fucking the state of the nation.
Yeah, exactly. And,
it
and
really
you
is.
See it, and there is like blink and you'll miss it stuff that people have kind of taken apart frame by frame. Like at one point, a guy like jumps off of a roof and commits suicide. And
I thought he got thrown, but I guess
no,
dude, somebody threw him off that balcony.
Yeah, that guy just jumps. There's a bunch of kids like recording everything on their phones. At one point, you see like a hooded figure who some people think is Death ride through the back on a white horse. Yeah, and the cops are following him. I mean, it's just like it's really dense, and it is the first music video I remember kind of feeling like I had to watch more than once for a reason other than I like the song and I want to hear it again.
Yeah, you had to catch shit that you weren't catching like your first view.
Yeah, but even then there's stuff that I'm like, okay, clearly this is supposed to say something, but I'm not sure what. Like when he mows down the gospel choir chanting something to the effect of "Pay that black man his money" with an AK-47. It's crazy.
It's good. It's nice. Good old family Christian fun. I feel like we'd get along. It's a really positive message. I felt like. I thought that part was fucking awesome. I don't know. So I don't. It's gonna make me sound like a complete douchebag. But I don't give a fuck really what a lot of people read into this music video. I really care what Donald Glover has to say about it, and I haven't done too much research on it. Again, I'm not that like musically inclined, but I don't know if he said anything about it. It just came out like a few days ago. But like you can just read as much as you want into it. Like I can't believe people are reading into the way he was standing when he shot the person. Maybe there was some symbolism there, but I'd rather get the okay from him rather than, you know, anyone else being like, "Oh, well, I think the stance represents like aggressive slavery in the 1800s." Like, I don't know, man. What makes you the fucking expert? But I understand what you're saying. Like I had to view it a couple times too, just to catch everything. And there was the entire time I watched it, at least the first time that I watched it, the entire time I was just like, well, this is the song of the times, essentially. This is a music video of the times. And this is essentially like the crazy dumpster fire that everyone's got rolling around in their head right now, as we, as a country, try and figure our shit out, like one dumb tweet at a time. And I just thought it was really cool that he captured that atmosphere like really, really well, like with shooting black people and just being crazy and cars on fire and rioting and police running backwards and forwards, like side to side in the frame, like behind him, like beating up on protesters and shit. It was just fucking nuts. It was really cool. I dug it.
Yeah, I think that's a great bird's eye view of it. And for me, like I always kind of, I don't know, I try to think like, oh man, when was like the last time I really had to like think about a music video like this? And I think
the answer was Detroit Rock City. 1979 was the answer that you're looking for, Tyler. Let's not pussyfoot around this.
Yeah.
I think any Poison music video rivals this easily.
Yeah, it just like music videos don't quite penetrate like the way they used to, and I feel like it's so much harder for them to kind of like own their own moment. Like I think in college, I mean, whether it's to the specific taste of this podcast or not, like Beyonce's Formation video kind of had a similar level of buzz around it, even if it wasn't quite as like let's say like thematically or visually dense. It was just it was a moment, and the song kind of carried it a little bit further. But I can't remember beyond that, if your name's not Beyonce, like who had a really kind of key captivating
impactful
music
video.
There
were like music videos that went viral, but like they went viral like the fucking, what the hell's his name? Macklemore. Boo.
Yeah.
but like his music videos, like, what is it called? Thrift Shop, and then the one with the stupid motorcycles downtown.
God, yeah, you're right.
So those were like huge. They were huge for dumb reasons, but they were huge, but like this is impactful in a different way. Yeah. And I just think it's important to watch. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch and be like, that's fucking gross, and he's glorifying violence, and rap music is the thing that's ruining our children. It's goddamn MTV. It's like, fuck, man, just watch the music video. I don't know, maybe learn something. And like, a lot of people are going to walk away from it being like, well, he's a fucking weirdo. But I would implore you to watch anything else that this guy has done and been like, well, this was in keeping with his like motif. This is like Donald Glover's MO, really, just a little bit more violent.
Yeah, I think that's the other kind of cool thing is we're really seeing someone at the height of their powers. Like Atlanta, you can make a strong case Atlanta is the best show on television right now. The second season has lived up to the hype. It's great. Mm-hmm. His new kind of like turn into funk music has been really provocative and really awesome. And he's about to play Lando in fucking Star Wars.
Yeah, I wouldn't count that chicken before it hatched, though.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of
it's cool that he's Lando, but like, we will see how that movie turns out.
Right, but I mean, like, even in terms of the marketing, he clearly looks like the most promising and charismatic thing about that movie. And
probably.
I'm just saying, like, we're seeing a guy who right now is swinging at every pitch, and he's hitting most of them over the fence, to use a sports metaphor. Awesome.
Really, really unassuming guy too. Like, I mean, if you took a look at his upbringing in the professional sense, it didn't look like he was going to lead to this. This is America. I mean, he essentially like went to NYU. I was a really big fan when I was like in middle school and I started watching his stuff on YouTube. So he was in NYU. I'm sure you know this, but for the Zero fans, he was in NYU, and while he was there, he was a film student, and he did some shorts with his friends and put them online. A troupe called Dare Comedy, really funny shit. A lot of it is. And then they did a movie called Mystery Team, which I have a DVD copy of. I reserve ordered that shit from the Barnes & Noble in Desert Ridge because that was like the only place that you could get a copy of that movie. And then he wrote for 30 Rock, and then he was in Community, and then he left Community, and in between started doing music and stuff like that, and his first couple albums were not super well received. They had really like a niche audience. And now he's taking the world by fucking storm, so good for him.
Yeah. Speaking of taking the world by storm, I guess, Kanye West.
The flip side of this kind of equation. Yeah, the fall from grace.
Burning the world, and I'm not sure how.
What the fuck?
So a lot of people have kind of given their Kanye take, and either like directly on Twitter, which has been ineffective and annoying and kind of it's like a death by a million bee stings.
Yeah, a little self-serving too.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that's added much. Some writers have entered the fray, and then probably America's most prominent black writer, Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is a resident columnist at The Atlantic, writes his piece on Kanye this week in The Atlantic. It's called "I'm Not Black, I'm Kanye," and his thesis is multifaceted, like a lot of his work is, but it basically says Kanye is not, whitewash himself is not really the point, but he wants to set himself apart from his black identity in a way that betrays a lot of the musicianship and artistry that he showcased in the past. And the writer cites that dynamic with a lot of the pressures of fame and being a pop culture figure. It was pretty interesting. I really like this guy's writing.
You can tell a story.
Yeah, for sure. But you said your feelings were a little more complicated. What'd you think?
It was. So I really like the article. Like, don't get me wrong. I didn't really have a problem with the way it was written or what his message was or anything like that at all. I totally think that his opinion is valid and stuff like that. But I felt like the reason that people were so disappointed in Kanye, and I have no idea if the author is one of those people, but just in general, people, the capital P, were so disappointed with Kanye that he like sided with Trump is because they held him to such a high standard that it was kind of unrealistic for him to become like a black god. And that's something that Coates says over and over again inside of his article. And he cites Michael Jackson as sort of the same thing, where you had this black god who had this mythos around him that he could like moonwalk and make zombies dance and all this shit, but deep down he just wanted to be white, and that was so heartbreaking for him and other people in the community to kind of rationale and understand that someone who could be as big as he is and still be black really had this defect in him where he was trying to be white. And I guess they chalked that up to like the pressures of fame and stuff like that, like you just said. And he drew that comparison to Kanye West, and he's like, well, maybe the same thing happened, that he was another black god that fell from grace. But I was like, the entire time I'm like, well, I feel like the problem is that you look to this guy like he was a black god. Like, you could look back at Kanye's entire career and see that he was probably a little unhinged. I wasn't surprised when he came out and said that. I was like, oh, it's Kanye being stupid. He's just a guy to me, you know? And that's probably because I don't get it. I totally understand that. I don't come from the same place as those types of people and stuff, so I don't really have that connection to Kanye. I never really liked the guy, to be completely honest. His music's fine, and, you know, I have a few of his albums, but, like, I never considered him, like, the voice of a generation, you know, a fucking lyrical genius and all that stuff that he gets caricaturized for, because he does stupid shit. And that always told me that he was just an imperfect guy who was really good at music. So it's probably, I'm just going to chalk it up to me not really getting it. That's fine. I don't claim to understand fucking everything, but to me, the reason Kanye, what he did was so disappointing is because we put so much stock in him. But I think that was a mistake, obviously, because he's just a dude. I don't think he's a black god. I don't think he ever was a black god. He might have inspired people, and that's really powerful. But when you start calling people like the icon of your race or your generation or your sex or whatever, like, you're going to be disappointed. There's going to be something that you don't like about the guy. And I think it's just a mistake to do that, especially when it was pretty clear from a long way off that maybe this guy was a little out of touch with reality. And so this is him really showing how out of touch he is with his own community, which is the betrayal. So I don't know. I really like the article, but I thought it was maybe kind of people's own fault for really kind of looking at Kanye and being like, this is our guy.
Yeah, I think I agree that I actually made a pitch to Relevant this week that ultimately got cut, so I didn't write it. But the pitch was basically like, to everyone who says this is betrayal, like, why are you kidding yourself? Kanye West was always like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right. I think that sort of like idea of, I understand the music thing, and I think actually one of the smaller revelations of the article for me was how specifically Kanye influenced hip hop music and gospel music, and was sort of the man who built the bridge again between like black music history and modern hip hop, and how his production created that connection that a lot of the hip hop of the early 2000s and the 90s had eliminated or ignored. I thought that was really compelling, and I thought that kind of serviced his point about being a black god fairly well. But I think, to your point, the mistake was that sort of reverence toward Kanye was extended across all platforms beyond music. He was the guy who, you know, not only made College Dropout and Late Registration and Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, he also was the guy who stood up to George Bush and said he doesn't care about black people. Like, he was also the guy who made Yeezus as like the anti music critic, anti-establishment hip hop album, and people positioned him as a social figure as well as a all-time great musician. I think Kanye is one of the great musicians of our time for sure, but I've personally, and I don't know, maybe it's just because of who I am, but I've always thought he was kind of a huge douchebag.
Yeah, me too.
And that's where that sort of idolization is totally lost on me. And when people are saying, oh, this is such a betrayal, I'm like, well, betrayal implies that this is like a shocking turn of character. And it doesn't strike me that way at all. I think all of the political affiliations are definitely out of left field. And I think like the specifics of those kind of surprise me, but the outspokenness doesn't surprise me. All of this is stuff about free thought and, you know, separate yourself from the institutions that are controlling you. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
so
that's always been him. And I personally agree with that aspect of like his argument. It's just, I think the political affiliation, like you said, like came right out of left field. And I think that's what really threw people off.
Yeah. And I think too, like, you know, social media is, especially Twitter, is a huge liberal bubble. And so I think that kind of fed itself a lot. But, you know, I don't really know what to make of this now in terms of kind of gauging what people think, because I think now people are positioning the music that's going to come out next month in June as kind of like, that's going to be the final test. If it's great and reductive and powerful, then all this is going to be okay. And if it's terrible, then it's going to be an affirmation of all this. I think Coates says something similar. And
do you think, I'm sorry to cut you off again, but do you think he's going to get like a quote unquote fair shake of it when his music comes out, or do you think people are just going to really judge it based on something stupid that he said?
I think it'll work the other way. I think the music will be judged first, because I think they're inseparable at this point, because he's kind of made them inseparable. And that's been Kanye's whole thing, like his sort of life path, and whatever his mood and whatever his ideals or values at the time are going to go into whatever the next thing is. His mom dies, he makes 808s and Heartbreak. He feels like he needs to retreat, refresh, and get a hold of himself. He makes My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He feels like no one understands him. He makes Yeezus. He feels sporadic and fragmented and all over the place. He makes The Life of Pablo, which people think for some reason is genius because he changed it a million times. I thought that was bullshit. And
yeah, me too. I didn't like that album at all. I literally just re-listened to half of it on the way to work this morning.
Yeah, I just think, oh, he's changing it. He's a genius. Like, well, if you change it, you have no idea what you really wanted to say. Like,
yeah,
I think
there's two good songs on that album. The rest is bullshit.
Yeah, I don't think that was very innovative. But that's aside the point. I mean, I think all that is to say that this stretch of Kanye's, like, the Kanye experience, I guess, for to use a term that's probably higher than this circumstance actually is going to inform what this album is. So it will be connected. But I think that the point that Ta-Nehisi Coates made that I think I agree with is the music will inform what this was, not the other way around. If the music is great, we will see it as a response to all of this and an engagement with all this in a positive sense. If it's not good, we will see it as, oh, we saw it coming anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know. It'll be like a telling of the times. I think it'll probably be, I don't know, because I literally just said Life of Pablo was bullshit. But at least it was different. I don't know. I do believe that the man is very musically talented and is probably a genius, but with that genius comes a little insanity most of the time. So I don't know. Fingers crossed it's good.
Yeah, and I'm tired of like his labeling of himself as genius. I'm tired of that being bullshit. An excuse. Yeah, but I'm tired of that being an excuse for all of the behavior. It's like, oh, well, I'm just doing this because I'm operating at another level from everyone else. It's just I don't buy that.
No, me neither. I don't think he's like Einstein smart. Don't get me wrong. I think he's like Van Gogh, probably creatively genius. Is a little bit different than being the fucking smartest man in the world. Obviously, he's not. He doesn't really think before he speaks. But he could really engineer a good track. So,
right. Well, there you go, man.
Yeah.
All right, and the third thing in the main segment today is something else that is very responsive to the times and the cultural moment, and that's Grand Theft Auto. So, Emilio, the fourth game of the franchise, or I guess like the fourth installment, Grand Theft Auto 4, came out 10 years ago.
Jesus Christ, I feel so old. I remember going into the Fry's Electronics and like begging my dad to buy that for me. That was our fresh in my memory.
Wasn't that like our? It was either we were getting ready to leave middle grade. School. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Damn. I remember I was the only one of my friends who didn't have that game because I had previously conned my mom into buying San Andreas for me. By the way, all these games are like a heavy M for mature, so you really needed a parent to buy it with you if you're underage. And I conned my mom into giving me San Andreas, and my dad walks in right when I capped some cop, and he's like, no son of mine, and stole the game and hid it from me. So it was a really long uphill battle to convince him to get the 4th installment.
Yeah, that dynamic actually I think is going to be at the center of a lot of what we talk about. But,
yeah, it's very controversial.
Right, but where I want to start is I think the consensus among players is that Grand Theft Auto 5 is the pinnacle of the series. That's the last game to come out in the franchise, and
no, I disagree.
And I think we both
I think it's a very, very vocal no for me.
Yeah. So, do you think 4 is the best?
Yeah, probably. Probably. Or San Andreas, honestly, is really fucking good too. People will say like 3 or Vice City and stuff like that. Those were cool. San Andreas, I really thought like was if I had to pick one Grand Theft Auto game to play in San Andreas, GTA 5 or San Andreas, I'd pick fucking San Andreas. I thought it was way better than GTA 5. It was just a cooler game because I think of like the time period. But if I have to think back, like what are the most amount of hours I've ever spent in any GTA game? GTA 4, easily.
Dang. So break it down. What do you think was so successful about GTA 4 that maybe to put it against 5 a little bit, what did 4 have that 5 was missing?
DLC. Honestly. Like, I know that's such a fucking obvious answer, but a lot of people will argue that the best GTA game ever made is The Ballad of Gay Tony, which is in itself just DLC for GTA 4. It's not even its own standalone game. I would argue that I really like The Lost and the Damned more. A lot of people actually really don't like that one. I thought it was cool. Sons of Anarchy was really big at the time, so like, you know, it just made sense to fucking play that. But yeah, the complete and utter absence of any single player DLC in the 5th game is very, very noticeable, Cotton. Their absence is noticeable, Cotton. And a lot of people will bitch about it on Reddit. And personally, rightly so. They could have thrown a bone and just put out like at least like 1 or 2 mediocre DLCs for the main game. But nope, they focused all their attention and all their money on online because it was a huge cash cow. And that honestly, as like a really big fan of pretty much anything Rockstar has like swung their dick at the past 15 years, really sucked. That really sucked as a fan, being like, well, I guess you really do only care about the money. So that would probably be the biggest difference and what makes GTA 4 such a great game over GTA 5 in this man's humble opinion.
Okay. Well, another part of it that I wanted to press in on, because I remember this was a big part of our early days playing the game, when we had chat about it a little, is, and if I could kind of put on the culture critic hat here, what I think is really impressive about Grand Theft Auto 4, and is probably, I wrote about this a little bit at relevantmagazine.com.
But shame on you.
Yeah, I know. But Grand Theft Auto has always kind of existed in the middle of this conflict between everyone thinking that the game promotes crime and depravity and all of these like horrible things, but the game actually using all of those things to sort of funnel a social commentary through its single player experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Everything about Grand Theft Auto, I think for the most part, is kind of designed to sort of like hold a mirror up on America. They're games about America. They're games about the American dream and how, you know, the sort of like evil side of all of that can, you know, turn like your experience into something really, really horrible where, you know, you either have to rob a bunch of banks to feel like you get what you want. And basically they skewer, you know, capitalism, social media, like the way we relate to each other, crime, all of that kind of stuff. But they do it in a way that is a very, very well-crafted, fun, entertaining playground video game.
Yeah.
So your dad sees you shooting a cop, and yeah, that's your choice to shoot a cop, and you can either do that or not.
It was.
But yeah. But like, you know, I had the speech in elementary school. I remember the principal came to our class to give us a talk about not playing Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, because man. I remember my dad giving me that talk.
Really? And it's because they're the, you know, the quote unquote like games that promote violence and sex and drugs and all this stuff. Like they're the games.
Totally cool to watch 24 and watch Jack Bauer like electrocute some Arab guys in nuts for half an hour.
Right. And it's funny because I think the Rockstar president, when Grand Theft Auto 4 comes out, it introduces all these mechanics like the drunk driving, and you can, you know, go on dates and try to pick up girls and all this stuff. And so there's tons of criticism.
That's such a 1950s way of saying it. You could pick up girls and pick them on the cheek. No, you could pick up prostitutes, Tyler, and then you can fuck the prostitute, and then you can kill the prostitute, and then take the money that you just paid to the prostitute. It's a win-win situation. I think that's why they had a problem with it. You weren't going steady with your Susie Q. You were beating up a prostitute.
Oh my God. That's the sequel.
Yeah, right.
But you know, they have all of these things, and obviously they face tons of criticism, but the president of Rockstar comes out and says pretty much exactly what you just said. He's like, there is nothing in our game that people aren't already getting in movies and television. And it, in fact, is our mission to create a game that stands culturally alongside those things. And he implies reflects all of the problems of those things. And then he says, like, he's like, frankly, and he hedges, like, the intended audience of Grand Theft Auto 4, I think, is sophisticated and mature enough to handle all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's actually just I remember reading that statement like a long time ago, but now that you brought it up again, that's so fucking right on the nose about this, because the reason people were so pissed off was because it was a perfect reflection of what American society was. It stands with our culture. It stands with the TV and the music and the movies and shit that's already out there. And TVs and music and all the arts and cultures that come out of us is a reflection of us, you know? It's the best representation of what we're feeling. We just talked about that with This Is America. That is a perfect representation of the dumpster fire that is America right now. And if people were getting so pissed off about the GTA games, it was really because they didn't like the state of the country. And I think the fourth game really captured a very unique time in American society, which was very post 9/11, very right after pretty much is when the game takes place, and there's a few, and it takes place in a fictionalized New York called Liberty City, but for all intents and purposes it's a caricaturized version of New York City. And there's a few moments where they talk about the politics of the city, and people are afraid of terrorists, and that's why they blocked out the bridges, and it's harder to get guns now because they're cracking down on gun crime. And it's like, well, shit, that was 2008. That really was like a perfect representation of those transitive years between Obama and or Bush and Obama. And if people were pissed off at that, it's because they didn't realize it, but they were really pissed off at how shitty America was at the time.
Yeah, and I think one of the smartest things that the game does, and this is something that I think 5 was not as successful at, is it really matters who the protagonist is in 4. So Nico Bellic is an immigrant, and so your experience as Nico is meant to be the immigrant experience in America. Of course, everything is exaggerated and blown out of proportion. It's a video game. It's supposed to entertain you, and the story is supposed to take you there. But I think it was really kind of key and really significant that a video game was saying, here's an immigrant just trying to make it in America. All those early missions when, you know, your cousin is kind of sending you on like foot errands, you know, you've got to basically go make handshake deals and, you know, make deliveries and all these kind of oddball stuff. As those things kind of get seedier and seedier, Nico is kind of reluctant to do it all. He's not looking for crime. He's not looking to break the law. He just wants to make it as an American. And what the game communicates that I think is really intentionally controversial and cool is that the way that, you know, society and the American institutions treat people like Nico is crime and criminality becomes an option, and it becomes a viable, in some ways more viable option for him to be successful.
Than so just, getting a job.
Yeah. And like the game offers you, it says like, you know, you can try to do this the right way. It's going to be really, really hard. The game is hard. If you try to like obey laws and follow rules, you won't make it financially. You won't be able to afford clothes. You won't be able to afford guns. You won't be able to do all this stuff. But if you do the easy way, if you just follow the mission, if you kill the people in front of you, if you go and like buy a gun illegally, all that stuff is going to be easy. It's going to be really easy to get that penthouse apartment. You can walk into any store and buy whatever clothes you want. You can steal whatever car you want already, but then you can go customize it any way you want. Like there's the path of least resistance is the path with the most illegality to it. And I think that's really intentional and important, and it matters that Nico is the person experiencing all that.
Yeah. No, I like I said, it's a reflection of America, and because it's that violent and crazy here, it really is. And like it's hard enough saying that as an American who fucking loves the country. Please don't arrest me, FBI. But it's hard enough saying that as an American, because you have this thing, we studied it in college, where you have, I forget what it's called, but essentially you have these blinders on. It's really hard to fucking see things on the peripheral and stuff. It's annoying. Essentially the lecture is, if you are standing right in the middle of the shit, it's really hard to analyze the shit that you're standing in. It's way easier to do it from like 300 feet away, to be like, oh, that guy's some shit. And because this studio is a non-American studio, I know now they have a bunch of different locations spread all over the world and the United States, but originally they're Scottish. It's a Scottish studio, Rockstar,
really?
You know?
Really?
So they... Yeah. Rockstar North or East, whichever one. I think it's North is their original one.
Okay.
Maybe it is East. I can't fucking remember. But it's from like Glasgow or something. You know, it's from Scotland. And so they, in fact, the original GTA game took place in the UK. But yeah, they have a unique position to really kind of peer over the ocean and be like, oh, what the fuck's going on in America? Some crazy shit in LA and New York and all that shit, right? So like, I think that gave them a benefit, like a perch to kind of stand on and really get a good view of the dumpster fire that was 2008, because there was another one back then too. You know, it was a financial crisis and people were losing their fucking minds. You couldn't bring toenail clippers into the airport without getting shot. You know, it was like nuts. And like I said 10 minutes ago and 5 minutes ago and 3 minutes ago, it was a mirror image of characterized like more of like a funhouse mirror, but still gave a reflection. And if you didn't like the game, then that's just because you kind of had a problem with America probably, and you just didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and I think that 5 takes that and twists it. I think there are some aspects of it when the way they kind of embrace, especially like cell phones and smartphones and everything. I think that's really good. But I think their big mistake, and you have a lot of problems with this character for story reasons.
Trevor,
but Trevor, man, I think is a mistake in that game.
He really is. People will say he's the best part of that game, and I don't know what the fuck they were smoking.
Well, I think here's the problem, because Trevor was designed to, in my opinion, in my reading of the game, like reflect the player. He's like the chaos agent, rage mode, blow up whatever, kill whatever, act irrationally, act implausibly, like do all this crazy stuff. And I think that it sort of blunts all of that messaging that we were talking about, like 4 delivered with a lot of dexterity and a lot of precision. But I think what was so key is that 4 always presents things as a choice, even if you're ultimately going to get to 3-leaf clover and you're going to rob that bank no matter what.
Best fucking mission.
I
would save right before that mission, and then like 3 missions later, I would save in a different file so that I could just go back and replay that fucking shootout like over and over again.
Yeah, incredible. Like, even though you're going to get there no matter what, the game lets you see everything, and you see, I know what led me here. I see why these other avenues would have been more challenging given the story. This all makes sense. Like that choice of between the right way and the easy way is always in your head, either subconsciously or consciously. But 5 and Trevor as like a reflection of that crazy agent, that eliminates that choice. And it's just like, here, do more.
Yeah.
Like, just blow it up, just shoot it,
I hated that. Because it maybe that probably reflects a good percentage of the population that plays GTA. Like, I know people who just play GTA and never go through the story. And be like, fuck it. And they just run around and blow shit up for like 9 hours a day, and they're totally fucking stoked on that. And that's cool. Do you. Like, whatever. But for me, the reason I like Rockstar games is because they tell a really compelling narrative. And with GTA 5, I didn't get that at all. I really didn't give a fuck about any of the characters except for one. And I have a feeling you probably felt the same way. But yeah, for 2/3 of the game, I was like, I can't believe they're forcing me to play this fucking character that I don't give a shit about. Especially Trevor. I hated playing as Trevor because like I was so personally different from that person that like I couldn't get into his character at all. Like I couldn't imagine myself really doing this. And I know it's a video game and I can't imagine myself shooting cops or, black people anyway. But yeah, Trevor was like something else, man. Like first off, just really jumping into the scene where he's like introduced. I was like, well, I'm already like 900 miles away from this fucking character. I'm not getting into it. Meanwhile, my favorite character, who was Franklin, was so fucking fun to play with. I loved that character and I loved being him. And whenever I do play the single player, I immediately jump into that character because I think his backstory is way fucking cooler.
Yeah, I think the mistake of Trevor was, they kind of leaned all the way into the people who were just running around and blowing stuff up and were like, here, this is for you. And I've never kind of, I don't know, I wanted a more sort of like authentic way of telling stories than just, here, let's just give you what you want. It felt pandering. And Grand Theft Auto has always felt smarter than that. It's just like, come on. Like, I thought you were better than this.
I personally think that that's a reason I felt so personally pissed off when they didn't pursue any sort of single player DLC, because I'm like, well, I mean, you gave me 2 shit characters that I didn't like, but maybe I can get a DLC where I can at least, propel the narrative of the one character that I do really like, but I don't get that at all. And his story is kind of just like cut short. I feel like the game just sort of like ends, and I didn't really care for the ending. Like I didn't give a shit at all. I think they were trying to go for like some sort of like Goodfellas feeling, kind of like ending before everything goes tits up in that movie. But like I didn't give a shit. I didn't care about the story at all. And I'm not that big of an online player. Like, I goofed around on GTA 5 online for a little bit, but I haven't played it for a good like year and a half, 2 years, honestly.
Yeah. Do you remember how 4 ends?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Do you remember? No?
Okay. I don't know. Remind me what happens. Because I remember it being pretty...
it's sad. It's pretty sad. So, like, the decisions, you're given some decisions, maybe like 4 or 5 throughout the entirety of the game. And based on if you choose the good decision or bad decision, it sort of affects the outcome of the game. Very, very, very early decision-based, like, narrative stuff. It was one of the really first games, big AAA games, that was really kind of pushing that stuff in, like, in the mid-aughts. But essentially what happens is if you rip off the Russian guy, I forget his name, with the glasses, something with a Z, I want to say. If you rip that guy off, he gets really, really pissed off, and he shows up to your wedding, and he lights it up with an AK. And based on your previous decisions, dictates who dies. One is your cousin, Roman Bellic, gets fucking capped at his wedding. And another one is your girlfriend, Kate, I want to say, is the Kate McReary, Patrick's sister. She gets capped. And from there, you go and track him down and fucking waste the guy, pretty much. And so that's essentially the ending of the main game.
Yeah, dang. I mean, I do remember it kind of ending on that sad note. And doesn't it like pull back and you can see like their version of the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, you chase them down to their Ellis Island, which I forget the name of, whatever it's called in GTA, but you kill them on there, and then it kind of just zooms out of like Ellis Island, this promise of a better life in America.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there you go. Like, that's what you're left with. You're left thinking about that promise of the better life in America. And meanwhile, you like the family that brought you there is dead.
Yeah. One family or another is getting destroyed in that game.
Yeah. Man, that game was so freaking good, dude.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, all right, man. That'll do it for our discussion of Grand Theft Auto 4. 10 years old and it holds up. It's still really good.
Yeah. I absolutely recommend it if you haven't played it. I think it might be backwards compatible or is going to be backwards compatible pretty soon.
Yeah, sweet. All right, man. Let's end. You've been trying to get me to watch Barry on HBO. So for the GB today, I just kind of want to clear the lane and let you drive to the basket here. I've kind of been peripheral to this show. We've talked about it a little bit at work here. One of the writers is a big fan, but I haven't watched it yet. I don't know. It kind of struck me as something that might kind of be like mid-tier HBO comedy, like and I'm wrong, I guess.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're wrong. No, I could see that because the trailer is okay. Like I recently went back and like rewatched the trailer because I felt the same way. Like I really love Bill Hader. He's one of my favorite cast members to come out of SNL for a long, long time, and I liked pretty much anything that he's been in. Honestly, like if he's in a movie or a show or something, he's my favorite part about whatever scene or movie that he's in. You know, the guy's awesome. I love him, and so I was really excited to see that he was getting his like own show on HBO. And fuck, man, it's really good. It's definitely a black comedy for sure. What do you know about it? Do you know anything about it? Or
so I mean, here's kind of my like. Yeah, I know it's supposed to be a black comedy, but I guess my big hang up is the premise doesn't really grab me because it kind of confuses me. So the one sentence thing is a hitman starts his life in LA and decides he wants to be an actor.
Yeah.
Like
that doesn't grab you? I thought that was funny as shit.
Like so it's
just funny because it's just completely fucking different. Like it's just could not be more different.
So he's still like the premise is he still an active hitman?
No, he's trying to get. So just a quick like kind of thing. Without giving too much away, Barry is played by Bill Hader, and he is he's a former Marine from Afghanistan who just like came home and had horrible PTSD, and his longtime family friend, which he refers to as his uncle, convinces him to join the hitman racket with him, and he wasn't doing anything else, and he felt useless, so being a hitman kind of gave him like a purpose, like something to do, and he really started to like it. But then as he kills more and more people, it's like ruining him more and more. It's like tearing a little bit more out of his soul every time, and so he fucking hates it now. And essentially he just like becomes really apathetic about like being a hitman, and his handler sends him on a job to kill a shitty actor in the valley, like in like Ventura, California. And he sneaks into like his acting class on accident. One thing leads to another, and he goes on stage, and he turns out like he really sucks at acting, but he really, really likes it. And so his new thing is to try and get out of the hitman game and become an actor. Even though he's probably not good at it. It's something, so he knows that he's probably really shitty at acting, but it's something like deep down in his heart. You have a calling sometimes, and that's his calling, but he's really fucking good at killing people. Like he's Jason Bourne, but he fucking hates it. So he kind of has to balance like, do I stick with the thing that I'm really, really good at, but I hate, or do I go with my dreams, even though there's a really, really good chance that they're not going to pan out? And I know it's like a hitman actor sort of dichotomy here, but that is, in my personal opinion, translates so well to pretty much anyone who's ever had to make that decision before. Do I work as a fucking shitty mailman, or do I try stand-up comedy, even though like that's a really hard field to get into, sort of thing. So
yeah,
I don't know. I definitely resonated with it. It's really funny. There's definitely some laughs there. There's one character in particular that always puts a smile on my face because like he's just so ridiculous and so well acted that I'm like, God damn, this guy's fucking hysterical. Henry Winkler plays his acting coach, who's really fucking funny too. Yeah, it's really funny. It's a good show. There's 6 episodes right now out of a 7-episode season. Pretty short, I know, but that just means you'll blow through it in an afternoon because they're only like 25 minutes long. But the last episode that I saw was really dark. It's funny, but there are some really, really dark moments because this guy is like, he's dealing with like PTSD and depression and like suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. And so there's some really funny parts, and then there's some really dark shit. Honestly, it's kind of like a funny Taxi Driver, if you can kind of wrap your head around that. It's funny Taxi Driver. That's how I would describe it.
All right. And they pull it off. Like it's not like jarring or weird?
No, they pulled it off really fucking well. In fact, so I was I caught the last episode of Westworld on Sunday, and this show comes out Saturday night, Sunday, I can't remember, one of those days. It comes out on the weekend on HBO. Okay. And I've been telling my girlfriend, like, you gotta watch the show, and she's like, I'm not into it. She will be in a couple months, I'm telling you now. But yeah, so we watched Westworld, and we watched the 3rd episode, and spoiler alert, I thought it sucked. I thought that was like a shit episode. So to cleanse my palate, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to watch the next episode of Barry. She watches it with me. She's like crying by the end because it was like so sad. But that's good because it's like, it's really, really like good. It's Bill Hader is a fantastic fucking actor. If you haven't seen what the fuck's it called? The Skeleton Twins with
he did that with Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, right? Kristen Wiig, really fucking good, and shows like his acting chops. Honestly,
wow.
And he does really well here. There's one scene in particular, like really fucking heavy scene in the 6th episode that's just like, wow, shit. Like that's just a downer. But it's in keeping with the rest of the show. It's really funny. You'll laugh and then you'll immediately just be like, wow, fuck, that is incredibly sad. Like immediately after. It's like kind of like BoJack in that sort of sense.
Okay. All right. I can get on board with that.
Honestly, check it out, man. Like you could probably blow through it tonight if you're free.
Okay, maybe I'll take a look. All right, that's Barry. It's on HBO. It airs Sunday night, and I believe the finale is this coming Sunday.
Yep. It's already over.
Cool. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Dude, Is This Thing On? Emilio, if the people want to find you or us on the internet, where can they do that?
YouTube / Dude, Is This Thing On? Like, you know the drill. Come on. And then you can find me on Xbox, where I'm very lonely and playing a lot of Rainbow Six with 12-year-olds. So, you can help me out.
I thought you didn't like Rainbow Six anymore.
What? No. Well, I don't like the new characters and stuff, but, I just don't buy them. I just play with, like, the main characters. Still a really fun game. You just have, like, a lot of operators that have, like, ridiculous powers now that are just, like, so futuristic that it's like, what the fuck am I playing? But if you just stick to, like, the main characters, it's really fun. Like, it's still super, super, like, gives me an adrenaline rush, man. I love that game. It really is fun. It's just super difficult. If you're not like at the top of your game with video games, with shooters, you're gonna get your ass handed to you for sure.
Okay. What was I thought there was like a future one, like a Ghost Recon or something.
Yeah, Wildlands? Well, there's Future Soldier, which blows dick, but Wildlands.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, don't play that. That's really old too. I don't know why you would play that. Rainbow Six, it's like really, really big in competitive, quote unquote, esports. And so, like any competitive sport, the people who play it at the very amateur-ish level like to believe that they are at the competitive level. And so they will take it super fucking seriously, some of them. Here's what I'll say about the game. Super fun. The most toxic community I have ever seen in my, just radioactive, nuclear fucking waste these kids. It's awful. There's 2 different versions you can play online. You can play the casual servers, or you can play the ranked servers. In order to play the ranked servers, you have to play 10 games of rank, and then it'll give you a rank on the scale from go fucking kill yourself to holy shit, you're a god. And then it'll just kind of put you in games based on that, and you can increase your rank or decrease your rank based on how well you do. Or if you're just looking for a quick fuck, you can try casual, and I really do mean a quick fuck, because it's honestly like the game equivalent of like buying a $5 prostitute. You go in, everyone's screaming. Like, I guarantee you. I guarantee you, when you boot up a game in casual, 2 people will commit suicide right off the bat, or shoot someone on their team immediately. Like, you'll start the game, someone will quick draw like a 9mm and just cap the nearest 2 people next to them, and then throw a grenade on the ground and fucking blow themselves up, and laugh and laugh and laugh, and then it immediately becomes a game of 3 people versus 5 people, and that'll happen on one team or another immediately after starting any fucking casual game. It's just, they're animals. They're animal style. After I plugged in the game and I started playing casual for like a couple hours, and I'm like, God, I gotta get my rank back. Like, I can't fucking do this. I couldn't get through a single game without people just trying to kill me. It was obnoxious. Animals.
Wow. That's so funny. If y'all
animals.
If you guys want to follow me, you can do so on Twitter at Tyler Daswick, or read all of our culture writing, including the write-up of Grand Theft Auto 4 on relevantmagazine.com. But that will do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.